There's this great scientific article over at the New York Times about smiling and mirror neurons. Basically, what the article is saying is that when you see someone smiling, you instinctively react with smiling. You don't think, oh, I would like to smile because that person is smiling. No, you just react with smiling. Why is this the case? Well, the article says it's because we have these mirror neurons in our brains that go off when we see somebody doing something. So when somebody is smiling, these synapses called mirror neurons go off in our brain and we react by smiling. The article uses the word mimetic, and what mimetic means is a non-conscious imitation. So we don't know that we're imitating what's going on around us, we just imitate it, hence smiling. But this also works for frowning, and this also works when, say, you're sitting at a dinner table and somebody reaches for a glass of water. Well, you reach for a glass of water as well, but you don't think, wow, I'm thirsty, I think I'll have a glass of water. No, you just instinctively react and reach for a glass of water. Now, all of this seems fairly harmless, but what happens when somebody, say, comes after you with fists and is going to try to hurt you? You react either by throwing up your fists, or if you're me, you would run away. You don't have to think about it. You just instinctively react. What happens if at the dinner table you reach for a glass of water and somebody else reaches for a glass of water, but there's only one glass of water on the table? You're both reaching for the glass of water. Now this can cause conflict, and hopefully that conflict will have a safe, non-violent outlet. But it might have a violent outlet. You might go to blows, or that outlet might be somebody else, a scapegoat. Glee is a great way to talk about this, and I found a link on YouTube to a video on Glee that you can show the youth group, and it basically shows everybody smiling at one another, but it also shows when people get slushied. Somebody gets slushied, and then more and more people get slushied in this act of imitation. It's almost like a contagion, how everybody gets slushied. It's all done in good humor, but you can see how that could lead to acts of violence. And so these mirror neurons that are going off, causing us to smile at one another, but also can lead to violence. How does this relate to the Bible? Well, interestingly enough, this mirror neurons, this mimesis that's going on, is shown in the very first story of human beings. In the story of Adam and Eve, reflects this modern scientific understanding of human beings. So God gives Adam and Eve everything that's in the Garden of Eden except for the tree of knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life. It says, don't eat from those trees. Well, Adam and Eve want nothing to do with those trees because they have everything else that's in the Garden of Eden, and they're fine without those trees until the serpent comes to them and says, hey, those trees are good for eating. Well, what Eve and Adam end up doing is mirroring the serpent's desire for the fruit. So the serpent says, hey, that's good stuff. And Eve says, wow, that is good stuff. She doesn't think about it. She just does it. So she goes and she eats it, and she gets Adam to eat it. Now, they realize that they've gone against God's desires for them by doing this, and God comes looking for them, and they go off and hide. So there's this break in the relationship between Adam and Eve and God. And God says, where are you? God is trying to get back in relationship with them. And Adam, you'll notice, ends up accusing Eve and also says, the woman whom you, God, made me do this. And so Adam blames God, but also Eve. Eve ends up blaming the serpent. And what's going on here is this mirroring of accusation. So the mirroring works when the serpent gets them to eat the fruit, and the mirroring also works when Adam blames God and Eve needs to blame someone else. basically they're non-consciously imitating these accusations that are going around. And they do this because they're human. Not because they're evil, not because they're horrible people, but because they have these mirror neurons that are going on. They're mimicking what's going on around them. So the point is that it matters. Our environment around us matters. If we're constantly around accusations, we're going to get caught up in accusations. Now, interestingly, throughout the Bible, you have this alternative way, and that is forgiveness. You see this in the Old Testament, and it culminates for Christians in the person of Jesus, who says forgive 7 times, 70 times, which means don't stop forgiving, eternally forgive people. You also see this on the cross when Jesus says forgive. So Jesus is providing this other way of life, that he's modeling this alternative to the accusations that are going around. And if Jesus represents who God is, then God is all about forgiveness. And this is the other model that we have. So if we associate ourselves in a community of forgiveness, then I think that's the alternative to this community of accusations that we can easily get caught up in. So those are my thoughts on mirror neurons and smiling and accusations and forgiveness. I'd like to hear what you think. Thanks.